G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to War Thunder. Today we're going to take a look at what is probably the only plane that, in my opinion, you really need to grind out for the Swedish tech tree. This particular plane, in my opinion, is the pinnacle of fun and probably the most rewarding tank. Well, it is a little bit of a tank, but it is the J21A-1. The J21 is a plane that we've covered on the channel before. We've covered the J21A-2, which sits at battle rating 3.3 and has slightly different characteristics, although I can't quite underpin exactly what it is. However, the J21A-1 sits at battle rating 3.0, which means it can get downtier into 2.0, giving it favorable matchmaking. Not only does it have favorable matchmaking and retain most of the performance of its, future variant, the A2, it also has a slight advantage. It doesn't get as many up tiers. 4.3 is a massive BR vacuum. It's one of those BRs that, has a lot of prominent props. The BF-109 G2 and G2 Tropical, the Spitfire, the F Mark 9. You've got also, in that area, things at 3.7, 4.3, 4.7 that are also quite prominent. The P-47s are there. Some of the early P-51s and even the P-51D5. You have a lot of extremely capable planes that will tend to outmatch the J21A2. But the J21A1 doesn't see them. So, instead of, actually having to play the plane to the letter and perfectly, you can play it a little bit more liberally. You can do a little bit more than what you otherwise might not have wanted to do in the J21A2, all for what is probably a very, very slight change in performance. Of course, the J21 has a universal downside, being that it can't carry any ordnance, but you don't really need to worry about that, because in most of these cases, it's likely that you'll be taking out all the fighters anyway. Is this plane suitable for 3.3? I am hesitant to say so. It's certainly very strong, but is it worthy of 3.3? Well, only time will tell. So, the problem again with the J21 is, in this case, it doesn't climb. The plane itself doesn't climb, and it is not particularly great at sustained turning. I've covered this in a couple of videos, but in my opinion, the J21 is best in class for clusterfucks, for furballs, for dogfighting. This particular plane, whilst it doesn't turn, in a turn retains some of that energy that you might as well have lost in something like a Spitfire, which is in some cases better at dogfighting. Of course, it's better at turning. But in a sustained dogfight, where you have more than one friendly around, say for example a 2v2 or a 3v3, and if they are all J21s, over a period of about a minute of dogfighting, you will have retained a lot more energy than the Spitfires, than the Zeros, than the BF-109s. And in that course, you will have, in some cases, just become above them, had a higher energy advantage. Obviously, if BF-109s play safe and boom and zoom, then you haven't really got a whole lot of a chance compared to if they wasted some of their energy. But the mistakes that you can capitalize on in the J21 are incredible. This BF-109 here, I believe, is a BF-109F, because I can see the single tracer, and it looks like, if I can read the preview window, I might actually be wrong. I do know there is an E in here, and yep, so it is. It's a BF-109E1, which is probably where I confused myself, but simple mistake by the BF-109E gets him killed, because he doesn't watch above him where I'm sitting, and I swoop in and take him. BF-109F here, if I can read that properly, it's an E. Wow, I need to get myself a bigger preview window. So, a second BF-109E. These planes are still very dangerous. They are about as dangerous as the BF-109F1 in this situation anyway. And I get another kill. Again, you can see how well this plane is dealing with its opponents in a dogfight situation. This particular BF-109 gets a nice little critical hit from me, and I go into a vertical to store my energy and go for the go-around. I can see no enemies on the radar, but I'm not really sure how that ended up as not my kill, but it's okay, I'll take it. This particular plane does see a lot of BF-109Es, and it does see the BF-109F1, which is probably where I'm getting my mixes from. It does tend to struggle against planes that climb better than it, but if you put some time into side climb, or if you have multiple teammates with you on voice comms, for example, baiting and working together to drain their energy, you can actually pull off some incredible feats. I've played the J21 in my Discord, and I played with a couple of people that I honestly had no idea existed until they jumped into voice chat. But in saying that, I don't know how amazing these guys are in general at War Thunder, but in a little group of somewhat experienced pilots, maybe just a little bit of experience, we managed to win 95% of our matches in the J21A2. In the J21A1, with better matchmaking, you can do that a lot more often. The other little thing that I would like to bring up about the J21s in general is the guns. You can see it took me a couple of little sprays and I tended to miss, and in the J21s you will find that you will miss a lot more shots. The guns are basically 50 caliber machine guns but chambered in 13.2, so technically not 50 caliber. And in the A21R and the J21R, they are recalibrated in 12.7. However, in this case, they're 13.2s. The 13.2s basically do the same amount of damage as you would see on the 50 cals regularly. It's also equipped with a 20mm machine gun that seems to be based off the A&M2 cannon, which gives you the impression that you're firing the guns of a P-38 Lightning. However, the rounds travel a slight amount slower, and I think it might be due to, the way that they're built and the higher caliber. It is a little bit strange, and it is a little bit hard to get used to because it's the same gun sounds and it's the same tracer. However, once you do get used to it, you can absolutely pull off the most insane stuff ever. The J21 is, in my opinion, the best Swedish plane in the tech tree, simply because it combines capability, fun, and challenge in a perfect mixture. For me, the J32B is extremely good. It's extremely powerful. However, it's severely reliant on its team, and it can be at times a little bit too powerful, therefore throwing out that balance. The J22, which is the sort of Wildcat copy, but not quite a copy, is also quite interesting, but in my opinion, that's a little bit too challenging since it lacks the performance. The J21, however, allows you to put your teamwork to best use by being that sort of best in class as a dogfighter. It's amazing. It's truly something that you marvel at when you play this game. It's one of those things that just makes you feel sort of satisfied. It's not something that is brutally overpowered that absolutely destroys everything. It's no, destroyer of the worlds. However, it's not exactly bad either. It sits in the Goldilocks zone of not too overpowered and brutally overpowered. That sort of sweet spot where every sort of game balancer attempts to get that best balance. And I think in this case we have found it. In the Swedish tree at least. This particular plane, if you're looking for a fighter, if you're looking for something to challenge yourself, if you're looking for something that you can play with friends, this plane is perfect. It sits at 3.0. It's a rank 3. It doesn't take that long to grind, and if you have premium time and anything else, maybe a premium plane, you can get this plane within a couple of hours without any trouble. Best situations. If you're not a premium scrub like me, well, it might take a little bit more time. But in my opinion, this is probably the most worth your time to grind. It's only a rank 3, and it doesn't take that long at all, yet the reward is fantastic. And this is exactly what I love to see when Gaijin adds a new patch. Give me those hidden gems, those little things that seem to go away when everyone is hyped about the high tier stuff. The high tier stuff is good and flashy and all, but nothing quite shines like the J21. It doesn't quite compare. There's not a whole lot of stuff that sort of amounts to this level of enjoyment, in my opinion. It is literally the perfect bond of challenging, capable, and I guess rewarding. Not only that, but if you're looking at something to just put time into, you've got skins to collect on this plane. You've got a single skin, which I'll admit isn't much of a change from the other ones, but is still worth going for. It takes 400 kills to get it, and, that's something worth grinding for, in my opinion. If you're looking for, something to play with your friends, this plane is perfect in a group, in a wolf pack. And someone in the comments a few videos ago told me that Swedish planes are specifically designed with dogfighting or wolf pack type fighting in mind, which makes me extremely happy because it means that Gaijin have somewhat modeled the effectiveness of this plane in a dogfight quite well. So everything about this plane is right. There's nothing I can find that is poorly implemented, is difficult. It takes a little bit of practice, and it doesn't climb well, and that's about where it ends. It's perfect, ladies and gents. I honestly highly recommend this plane. Now, something that I would also like to take note of is this Fokker Wolff 200, the flying fuel tanks, if you will, because if you guys remember back when it was introduced way back, it was literally a flying fuel tank. 14 hours of fuel or something ridiculous like that, and it still does have it. Some of the planes that you can come across get set on fire very easily, but this is a whole new type of, if you're set on fire, you're absolutely fucked. And this is exactly the case with the Fokker Wolff 200. It's one of those planes that I don't know why people fly it. Regardless, I managed to shoot it down, and you could see me at the beginning of the engagement underleading my shots, and that's exactly where the 13.2 as opposed to the 12.7 come in, which is kind of cool. It's kind of cool to see that every little detail about this plane has been modeled, somewhat correctly. It's the velocity of the guns, the way the plane feels, the way the pusher prop handles, the way it feels in a stall fight. Actually, that's something that I need to mention, because the engine is in the middle. All the big heavy weight is in the middle, whereas normally you would have a very sort of it feels like the plane is being dragged by the nose, whereas in this plane, I'm not quite sure how to describe it, but perhaps someone who's a bit more, capable or a bit more knowledgeable than I am could help me explain it. But it's the same with the P63s. The plane feels definitely heavier in the middle, which is, about right. It doesn't like to turn at low speeds. It likes to be at that sort of 350, 400 mark, and it absolutely thrives at that mark because at that speed, you can also boom and zoom. It's sort of almost like the P63, but in the Swedish tech tree with more guns and, slightly worse at climbing, but better at other things. And the 50 cals, or the 51 or 52 caliber, I can't quite remember exactly the caliber, but the high caliber machine guns are surprisingly effective. I managed to get a tail control strike on the Heinkel 111, and while the vultures come in, he manages to rip his wings due to overspeed. This plane, in my opinion, is literally the perfect plane for the Swedish tech tree. It's the flagship plane, and Gaijin have done an absolutely fantastic job, and props where it's due. They've absolutely smashed this one. I love it to bits, and I think you're going to see me flying this plane a lot more if you play around 3.3, and perhaps we might even be flying it in the Discord a little bit, because I've been quite enjoying playing with subscribers in the Discord, and it's been an absolute blast. So if you're one of those people that might want to play a few games with me, maybe we can do some squads, maybe we can do some tanks, some planes, maybe even ships. You never know. Whatever I'm feeling, we can have a go at that and have a look at the rewards. Absolutely amazing. What a beautiful plane in a beautiful tech tree, not even far to grind. It's perfect, ladies and gents. I would highly recommend. This is a must-have plane. Anyway, ladies and gents, I sincerely hope you enjoyed the video. Take care, have a good one, and I'll catch you next time.